episode of Surviving the Survivor, we bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
And we are live. I need the COE to get Bruce Buffer, the Octagon announcer for the UFC, to do the intro to this show. It would be the dream of a lifetime. So COE, make magic happen, and somehow I'm going to get that done before it's all said and done. But welcome to Surviving the Survivor. Of course, this is the podcast that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime, another stellar panel about to be presented to you this evening. But first, another disturbing story of husband and wife. The wife is missing. They are from South Florida. She's not missing here. She's missing over in Europe. The FBI, Rob D'Amico's old agency, has laid out a detailed case showing why agents from his agency believe this Fort Lauderdale man, David Knezevich, is behind his estranged wife's, Anna's, disappearance from her apartment in Spain. However, the FBI gave no indication about what they think actually happened to her. I think most of us are probably assuming the worst. Starting and going clockwise here, you got Rob D'Amico, top right. He is the president and founder of Sierra One Consulting. He has served his country for 39 years. It's been a unique hybrid career in law enforcement and military service. And as I said, he joined the FBI as a special agent and quickly thereafter was assigned to infiltrate an organized crime family as an undercover agent. So all these guys leading very interesting lives. Next in the clockwise rotation, Jim Fuda. He is now a public safety advisor working with Crime Stoppers. He has a proven track record in the areas of law enforcement, training and security. And Jim's claim to fame, besides being the youngest looking 70-something-year-old you're ever going to see, besides that, he was with the King County Sheriff's Office in Seattle with a 33-year tenure there and worked as a hostage negotiator. We did a Surviving My Biggest Case with him, did really fascinating work and continues to. Douglas McGregor, last but not least, the new Doug McGregor, the shaved head, the trimmed beard. He is better known as the Geo Profiler. He's a forensic behavioral analyst and a consultant specializing in geographic profiling and linkage analysis for violent crime and missing persons. And right now, this is a disappearance, although my gut tells me otherwise. We're going to hear from these guys in a moment. And for full disclosure, behind the scenes, we're always well organized, but there are days where guests just drop out. So I asked Doug as a last second favor, and he looked into it, I'm sure, as much as he could. But usually Doug comes with maps and receipts, and he's going to be able to give us a general overview, especially considering this is now in a foreign land overseas on the continent of Europe. But first off, to Rob D'Amico, shout out to Jimmy McNutty, by the way. I have multiple sources confirming that Jimmy McNutty is in fact of the male gender. I thought maybe he was a housewife in Iowa going undercover like some other people at STS Nation. I won't mention any names, Ned Smith. But Jimmy is in fact, not only that, he's a retired aerospace engineer, and he's a trial watcher, and seems like a very, very interesting, and I was right, because I always say he has very interesting comments, and I find out you can't become an aerospace engineer if you're a bonehead. So this guy, he's bright, and he's somewhere out on the West Coast. So hope one day. And Jimmy McNutty, by the way, I never watched The Wire when The Wire was The Wire. Don't share his info. I'm getting yelled at. I didn't give any names, nothing. People think his name is Jimmy McNutty. Jimmy McNutty is from The Wire, which I honestly never watched. And then I tried to go back and watch it. I just couldn't get into it. And everyone's like, it's the greatest show ever. It was just, I guess the cell phones looked like they were from 1980 when I went back to watch it. So I don't know. I was having a tough time. Maybe I'll give it another shot. But Rob D'Amico, after that convoluted intro, this happened. She disappeared. I believe it was February 2nd. Today is May 8th. As I look at my phone. And this is incredibly complex and complicated, but I am wildly impressed with investigators on this to have pieced it together the way they did. And we'll go through the steps. What's your take?
Yeah, when you look at it, it's so there's so much circumstantial evidence. It's all put together very nicely. Again, they wanted to have all the information, the time of their choosing when he was coming back. They were probably tracking him, working with other agencies. It's just unbelievable how much they have. Except the one thing that really helps the case is a body. But now that they got him in jail, they're going to start going through the data. They're going to start going through, if you look at the trip and how it went and all the license plate readers across Europe that are going to come into play, of putting this car, even the one when it had stolen tags, across that terrain to really figure out where he may have, if he did something, where he may have hid the body. But I think one of the biggest things now, like the company I work with, we have database that can track mobile phone through their commercial data, and it's a history pattern. So you can actually lay out and see where somebody was for so long, how many times it was there, and such. So they're going to have to. It's going to be painstaking, but I think
Rob, with that software that you're just talking about that you guys use, the commercial stuff, is that? I mean, if you're at Target buying a dozen eggs or a set of towels, it's going to let you know that you were there. Is that how it works?
So it's not actually tied to it's anonymous data that's tied to a phone, and it's used for commercial buying services. But you can, through analytical research and everything else, you can then figure out like whose phone is what, and then start looking at movement. So it does. We've used it in a couple kidnapping cases to locate someone. Another company we work with has done it in tracking crime. A bunch of people all going to, and this is like major theft in places, and they put in there like all the devices that went to a Walmart, 3 different places within this group, and then why? Because why would you go to a Walmart? And they started analyzing that and then looking where it went. All went to a warehouse. And it turns out that's where they're broking all the stolen goods. So there's ways to do it. It's commercially available. It's data. Some of it can be painstaking to get through. But when you can then isolate what the person's number is, it's a whole huge digit. But then you can start looking where they were and how long they were there for, and start looking at it that way. So it's stuff out there, like DOJ has some policy in there about not using it except for certain circumstances. But again, it's for commercial data to really analyze things. But if you go down on it pretty hard, you can then start looking. And once you isolate that one device, then you can start doing your basically just show me this in the last so many days and everything else, and it can start laying out all that groundwork and tell you how long someone was at a location too.
And Jim, this is a good cautionary tale that as technology improves, it's getting next to impossible to pull off some of these what people, I think, and what this guy David Knezevich probably thought was the perfect crime. COE, why'd you take that comment down from Heather? She said she loves my interview style. I wanted to leave that comment up the entire show so I could continue to look at that. By the way, we're on a slight nervous breakdown alert. The book tour starts next week. I'll bug you guys with that in a moment, but just a lot going on behind the scenes. I'll remind everyone again, but the next 2 weeks is going to be chaos, absolute chaos. What's up, KLM? I'm going to be traveling with Carm. What I'm going to try to do are multiple little lives during the day. The COE is going to hold down the fort with Tim Jansen. Steve Cohen might even pop in. COE, we should get some photos of, I know you're working on Anna up here. And also, I'd like that video, please, por favor, that Jared Ross. If you guys aren't depressed today, I'm going to try to depress you. Don't want you too happy. So I have a video for you that I'm going to show you, which blew me away earlier today, which has nothing to do with this. But Jim Fuda. So this guy, David Knezevich, has been in Serbia for a long time. Suddenly, Saturday, he arrives at Miami International Airport, a stone's throw from where I am right now, and he is promptly arrested and charged with kidnapping. Do you think that that was, hello from Canada, Aunt Crazy? You got Doug McGregor, a proud Canadian, on the panel tonight. Jim Fuda, do you think this was done purposely? Rob was saying they were tracking him. Were they tracking him? Were they waiting for this opportunity? And why the hell would this guy come back to America?
I believe so. In fact, I lived in Bosnia, which is a neighbor country of Serbia, and have driven that route through Croatia, Slovenia, through Italy, and then up to Switzerland. And once you cross those borders, they're photographing your plates, and even if you're you get into the European Union, there is that you're crossing through and they wave at you, but they're looking at your license plates, and so there is obviously a progression of this guy moving forward, moving in, and moving out. Plus, he stole plates in Spain that belonged to another car. But thank God too for the family members and the friends she was supposed to meet. And it just didn't sound right to me when I read that she had supposedly sent a concocted text message to a friend she was supposed to meet, that she met a guy and was going to be out of cell range and just going to be on a whim. I've never done something like this before. So this guy's in Serbia. He does the drive, and so I'm sure they picked up on it, like Rob says, quickly.
I love this comment from Hatha Yoga. It's very hard to follow you. Yes, it is. Just ask my wife. Somehow more than 2 people watch this show. I'm not sure how. Doug McGregor. So what happened was, just to give a little background, this is a couple from Fort Lauderdale. The husband, David Knezevich, is married to his wife, Anna Knezevich. They're in their 30s. Marriage starts to go south. They own a tech company together and own some real estate together. So it's going to be a very costly divorce, which is where they're headed to. And suddenly she says, I'm going to Spain to stay with friends. He says, I'm going to Serbia. And then on February 2nd, she disappears into thin air. And we're going to break down what the FBI has put together in terms of their investigation that is at least public record as of this point. Divorce, someone is saying here, is as permanent as death. I just don't get all these cases. It is pretty crazy. Doug McGregor, the obvious first question to you. This is a continent away. She is a native of Colombia, the country, and was living here, and is missing in Spain from Madrid. Where do you start with this, Doug, to try to find her?
To try to find her, just looking at what evidence I've seen that's publicly available here, and going off what Robert and Jim said, there is a lot of circumstantial evidence, and my guess is, in terms of data that we only know the tip of the iceberg. I think they've got a lot more that they have, and that's probably coming in that they're working on at the moment across every country, as Jim mentioned, in that region. In terms of finding where she is, I guess that depends on what the motive here sounds financial on the surface, and if that is the primary motive, then it's likely that they're trying to get rid of the other side, so Anna, and disposing of the body. Now, kidnapping, it may be possible, but I'm just going on what I've read, which is that he was seen coming out with a suitcase. Hypothetically speaking, if she's in that suitcase, the problem with the suitcase is a suitcase in forensics, they refer to it as a limited access environment. Most people think that most people in the true crime world, they think that most bodies are either buried or concealed in some elaborate manner. They're not. Generally, it's more practical, like a suitcase, for example, or a bag that a body's put in, a duffel bag, for example, and then move that way. It allows the offender to move the body. It doesn't draw a lot of attention. Everybody has a suitcase. Again, they could carry it. It could be on wheels. It's just convenient. And a suitcase can be disposed of. A body you really have to conceal, especially if you're close to that victim. Generally speaking, the closer somebody is to a victim, the more forensic countermeasures they'll take. But if you have a body, you need to conceal that body, whether you in water or destroy the body or you bury the body. But a limited access environment like a suitcase allows you to dispose of that body anywhere. You know, a lot of suitcases with bodies in them, and they're a lot of you can find a lot of cases if you just Google that have bodies in suitcases. They're just found beside a dumpster on the side of the road, wherever. The other thing that this limited access environment does is it delays decomposition, right? And there's a couple studies that have been ongoing on the exact effects of a limited access environment on how it affects forensic scientists, crime scene investigators on detecting how long somebody's been deceased for. So those are kind of two of the hurdles that you'd have in finding her if she is deceased and she was in that suitcase, and that it could be anywhere and it could delay some of those effects.
Rosemary's asking if Serbia has extradition with the U.S. I have no idea, but it's kind of a moot point, I think, because he's in jail here. I believe he's at Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center. For those who are following the Adelson story, that's where Donna was put after being arrested as well at MIA. So, Rob, this is a very morbid question, but Doug was talking about hiding bodies in his suitcase, and this person we're about to discuss, who they believe is the husband, David Knezevich, was seen carrying a suitcase out. It seems to me like it's not that easy to get a body into a suitcase. I mean, how common is this, Rob?
You know, it's mortally funny, and I've arrested 2 fugitives that had hid bodies in suitcases. 1, the victim was still alive, and 2, the victim was dismembered and put into a suitcase. As you know, as Doug has said, it happens more than you think, because again, if you have to move a body, you know, a lot of people, you go in the movies and roll it up in the carpet and stuff like that. A suitcase is just, everyone has them, and it's one of those things. Some of them are huge. As you go to the airport and you see some of these folks flying international in these just mammoth suitcases. So you would have to look at her statue and everything else. And I bet, like, when they're looking at the video, because he is leaving with this suitcase, so they're studying his gait. They're studying how that suitcase, if he had to go down steps or if he had to do something, if he had to lift it, they're looking at it to see maybe how heavy that is. And I'm sure they probably try to buy a suitcase like that and see what happens to it when you put a certain amount of weight in there, because they're going to know all that information from her. So all those things are going to go into the analytics that they actually have with this video. The big thing is, if to dismember her in this house, you know, if he was in this, I think he left an hour after spray painting the camera. So if he actually killed her and then dismembered her and put her into that body, there's going to be a lot of evidence in that crime scene to indicate that it may have happened. Now, if he strangled her, if he did something like that, again, there's not going to be as much evidence of that they're going to be able to look at. So again, depending on what they're thinking happened there, they obviously have the rental car. And if he got into the rental car and put the suitcase in that, I'm sure that they've already done their forensic analysis of that rental car to see, again, if something had leaked out of the suitcase, indicating that she was in there. So there's so many things that you can start doing based on if you have a video of him moving with the suitcase, and you're going to start looking at the time frame of when he left there, when he sent the text, understanding how much time he had, did he ever come back? So they may be able to pin it to that exact hour that he was there, that he ended up doing something to her and removed her in that suitcase to the vehicle that he was seen driving, which would then start expanding that. Okay, how far can you drive? They're going to start looking at all the license plate readers again to indicate which way he went. Something's going to catch him with the license plate, and then that's going to put him on a track, and then they're going to start looking that way. And just, I mean, some of these, as Doug said, just laid out next to a dumpster or thrown in a dumpster, and then, or did he go by an area that has an open waterway that he could actually try to dispose of it that way? I'm sure his cell phone and all his internet stuff. Again, what did he search? Did he search at, how to weight down a body in the water, which may then give indications of, okay, that's what he was looking to do. So, I mean, this is the old, I don't want to say great crime case, but it's the kind that really detectives start like looking down on. And you have probably 4 or 5 different police departments involved in this, from Madrid and the Spanish National Police, the FBI folks working with them, the ones back in Belgrade and everything else that are really just putting everything to this, because this is what they do.
You mentioned you had 2 victims found in suitcases, one dismembered. You said the other victim was alive. What kind of condition was that person when you found him alive in a suitcase?
So this was a fugitive warrant. We end up back in, it was right here in Miami. I'm trying to think what year, 1998, 99. And we read that he had escaped. He had beat up his girlfriend, put her in a suitcase. She was just pretty much, bloodied up and beat up pretty good, and then got recovered, and he escaped, and we got to arrest him. My buddy Clay gave him the common perennial kick, and he dropped like a fly. And he wasn't such a tough guy when he had Clay, who's about 6'2", 230, drawing down on him. But yeah, so we read it, and like I said, it was back then. Even rolling suitcases weren't that big, but it was. I remember the Samsonite, and they had it, and we looked at it, we're like, wow, that's not that big. But she was I think she was only about 5 foot, and somehow he got her in there, but she lived.
This is the only show where you're going to get intricate details about how to get human beings stuffed into suitcases, I'm afraid to say. SN here, really a question for Rob, but I'm going to throw it to Jim Fuda here. SN says about 20 FBI agents in front of their house today. I live close by. This is in South Florida, not far from where I am. Jim, I mean, we still got to get to a lot of details here, but broadly speaking, what sorts of things is the FBI doing in this house today?
Well, it's they're looking for, my guess, more forensic stuff with computers. He obviously committed the crime overseas, so there's other things that they'd be looking for. Any kind of documents, any threat letters back and forth, just to help tie the case together.
So Doug McGregor, let's just start to unravel some of the bits and pieces that the FBI has released, and you probably rightly stated that they've only released certain bits of information, and we probably aren't seeing a ton of it, but some of it. And so she did disappear again on February 2nd, and it was after someone had reported seeing a person wearing a motorcycle helmet, basically in that European typical, biker outfit with the helmet, spraying a surveillance camera. Well, the FBI in these documents that were released, these court documents, and I believe they were released earlier this week, they say that it is this guy, David Knezevich. Again, they don't know what happened to her, but they say that he is this guy wearing the helmet, and he is the same person that sprayed that security camera outside Anna's Madrid apartment. Rob was talking about this a little bit. How many times do you think investigators watch this video, and how are they able, if you're wearing a motorcycle helmet, how do you think they're able to say this is that guy Knezevich? I mean, there's other information we're going to, pull out and put together here, but is it based on gait? Do they look at his walk? What kind of elements are they using to study this video?
Sorry, Joel, that was for me.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I mean, they're going to look at the video. They're going to use whatever resources they have, and technically, as well as behaviorally. So they may send it to different labs or different technicians to look at the video to see if they can enhance it in any way. They're going to try and get that same individual at different points in the timeline. And when I first read this case quickly this evening, I thought it was 2 individuals, one driving this rental car and another in a motorcycle helmet, possibly on a motorcycle. But now it sounds like it was one person driving the vehicle and wearing a motorcycle helmet. So, I mean, if he's driving the car wearing that helmet, it shouldn't be hard to pick out on different surveillance cameras around, a city center. But absolutely, behaviorally, they're going to be looking at this individual and trying to get just his physical characteristics, his build, his height. They're going to look at, like you said, his gait, they're going to look at all these types of things and just try to see whether it's they're going to get as best the strongest opinions they can from different specialists, different experts on whether it's that exact person or not.
If I could add to that real quick.
Yeah, please.
Is that he was also seen on video buying the paint that matched the paint on the helmet in the video camera and buying duct tape. So they'll be analyzing that gate to the gate of the guy at one of the apartments. So it sounds, although circumstantial, it sounds like they're locking him in pretty good.
Yeah, excellent point. I was just going to actually get that. COE putting up this graphic, 9:30 p.m. on February 2nd, a man resembling David Knezevich appears on surveillance footage wearing a helmet and spray painting the lens of a security camera. And Doug just said something super interesting. If it was me and I see a motorcycle helmet, I'm assuming it's a motorcyclist, but it sounds like this guy was driving and used a motorcycle helmet to just cover the face. Interesting tidbit there. Video showed the man duct taping the lock of the building entrance to prevent anyone from getting in. Court documents state that the man is seen leaving the building's elevator with what appeared to be a suitcase. A search by police revealed that her phone, laptop, and chargers were all gone. But back to the video for a minute, Rob. Serious question. How many times would you watch a video like this? I mean, we're talking tens, hundreds, thousands to see what you're missing potentially, to check out the gate, to compare it to whatever else you need to compare it to. How closely do you guys look at these videos?
Oh, it gets down to frame by frame, and you're talking hundreds of times, and you're talking, when I would feel burned out, I would say, hey, what am I missing? Give it to someone else. Always we talked last time, fresh set of eyes on anything is good. But when you're going down to that, you're just going frame by frame to see things, because when you play it, sometimes you're just not, exposed to certain things. And it may be one little thing. It may be as he was coming up and all of a sudden you see a sliver of jewelry or something. You're looking for that identifiable mark. And it sounds like this guy, like he read everything to do, but then again, he did stupid things within that. I think he probably thinks he knows best, which a lot of these folks are like that. And did he really need to send texts? Like when you look at, did he need to send texts from her phone saying that? Because that's actually what queued up the friends to call the police for the investigation. If he hadn't done that and she just disappeared, there may be a lot more time. Like that video may get erased every 7 days and it wasn't saved. But right when he sent those texts, they got suspicious and called that. So again, I think he thought he knew what was best to plan this out, like a lot of them do. But he made a lot of mistakes in that because obviously when he went up to spray the camera, they had the video of him doing it, even though if he had a motorcycle helmet on. They saw what kind of paint it was, and they went that back. When we do some of the stuff in the bureau where we're actually breaking into places to put bugs and stuff, you actually look at all the camera angles and how can I come up to a camera angle and not be seen? That's the true analytics of it. And how can you do certain things to do that? Going right up to a camera and spray painting it actually causes more. Understanding maybe how long that some of these companies keep films and stuff is a bit more advanced. So he got a bit of it. I thought he had the trade crafts, and thank God he didn't.
Fuda, this is a cat-friendly dog. Look at that, right on cue. I just said dog-friendly, and I heard a bark. And I saw a tail in your frame. Is that a cat or a dog, Jim?
That's our little 11-month-old long-haired doxy that could be a pain in the ass whenever he wants to be.
By we have a new pug that's not even 5 months named Frederick Morris Roosevelt Brown, named for my beloved Mabel Rose that passed at 17. And he will not stop yapping when I eat. This guy will kill for food. And someone very wise, I think it was Ned Smith, suggested I use a spray bottle with water, and I have no other choice. I'm going to start spraying this guy. I'm going to CVS right after this. I cannot live the rest of my life. This dude is attached to my ankle, does not leave my side, tries to get in the shower. It's crazy. So, but the food thing has got to stop. Anyway, Karen Bagwell. Jim, for you, you're a hostage negotiator for 33 years. You know the human condition. You know the mind of human beings, particularly men. So the question is, what is wrong with these men? Your answer. Great question.
Well, I think in this case, it's looking like if I get rid of this problem, I agree with Rob here is that this guy, it looks to be a bad divorce, and he's worried about his finances. You look at their ages too. He's 36. They've been married 13 years. So he was a young married guy at 23, built this stuff up and apparently didn't want to give up any of his money because his estranged wife was moving to Spain where she wanted to live out her life. So I just think this was more get rid of the problem. And I'm going to throw, like Rob said too, about the text that he sent, which really solidified it, is that he tried to make these police go on a wild goose chase. That she went off with this stranger, and now and so we're going to be looking for someone to try to throw the heat off of him, and obviously that didn't work.
Yeah, this is a fascinating story. By the way, someone said Turner Guilford Night is not a good place. It is a horrific county jail in Miami-Dade. Jerry Michael here. Back to Rob D'Amico. This is your wheelhouse. Is there an international agreement between countries that allow the FBI to assist? Followed by this question, does Spain have any jurisdiction on charging David Knezevich, considering the crime took place there? Could he be charged potentially in both countries, Rob?
He can. So the FBI has a called legal attaches. So, and I was one in Afghanistan for a couple of years. So there you have the legal attaches, the representative to the ambassador to handle law enforcement matters. And each country is a bit different on what we can and can't do. And that's usually negotiated through treaties and everything else. But for the most part, the legal attaché and his assistant legal attachés, which we call ALATs, work with different police, and it's a back and forth. So if we have a crime in this country that somehow is coming from another country, you send the electronic communication over to legal attaché, the legat, and ask for them to get with the locals to cooperate. And it can be on the city level, the national level, and it's a matter of building relationships with them to how far they go. Some countries, it's hand in hand. Like you look at the legal attaché in London, we have people embedded in each other's offices. And then you have some that are a little bit, more standoffish, like the legat in Russia. Not as much cooperation, though. There have been some cases that are really crazy with that. So it goes back years. They formed the legal attaché, a little history, in the 40s looking for Nazis. And Hoover decided, instead of saying FBI liaison, he wanted a little bit more generic, and it just made a legal attaché. And they were looking for Nazis in other countries. But it's turned into a joint partner of law enforcement with the countries. And there's probably like 50 to 60 legal attachés around the world now. But each one has a different relationship. Spain and all these ones are going to have great ones where they're working back and forth. And they can charge them in both places. But any crime on a U.S. citizen, we can charge anywhere, no matter where it happens in the world.
Wow, really, very interesting. We have sound. By the way, Rob D'Amico is from Jersey, like myself. I got a funny email today from a faithful watcher from Jersey, but they're from the island of Jersey off of the UK, and it looks nothing like New Jersey. Absolutely stunning. And I was joking with Olivia that I have to come out there. Maybe not joking. I've got to get out there for the book tour. But here's some sound from Anna's family, obviously distraught. This is from today. Let's watch it together. We'll get everyone's reaction.
Terrible, we feel great betrayal. We're just shocked. We traumatized. I don't wish this upon my worst enemy.
Obviously, you see the pain not only in the brother and his brother, but also the mother. Doug, you have to deal with this at times where, excuse me, you've got to console family members. Just with your experience, in general, what are the chances that they're going to find where she is? I think all of us are assuming worst case scenario that it's going to be a recovery and not a search at this point. But Europe's a different ball game than here. I'm sure they have geo profilers there as well, but do you have confidence that they're going to find where she is?
I think there's a lot more to this case than what we know at the moment. Now, the reason I say that is he's from Belgrade. He drives to Madrid, which is roughly 1,600 miles. But the rental car has 4,800 miles put on it. So that he could have easily driven to Belgium, Netherlands, and then back to Belgrade, roughly. I don't know the exact distance, but he's not only has he gone to Madrid and back, but he's gone somewhere else entirely. And for what purpose? So whether she's alive or deceased, what was the other half of that trip, that journey to crime and after the crime? And I think there's a lot of information there. And, as Robert and Jim alluded to, there's going to be a lot of data available in all those different countries, crossing borders, going through toll roads, like cameras everywhere that they'll be able to track that vehicle. In addition, they'll be able to track if he had a cell phone or any electronic device on. But just following up on what Robert said earlier, I mean, this to me signals a family member, because as I had mentioned earlier, usually the closer to the victim somebody is, the more forensic countermeasures they take. And this guy's gone through everything in the true crime handbook, which will probably be his undoing in the end. But in order to finding her, it's going to be tough. If they have evidence that she's alive, that's one thing. And, there's a whole network in Europe to try and find individuals that are missing, individuals that are caught up in trafficking networks. If she's deceased and she's in a suitcase, or buried, concealed otherwise, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to, as I would do, I would create a geographic profile of this individual, and I would find places he's familiar with. Generally speaking, somebody who's close to the victim, even an ex-husband, there's still some love lost there. And a lot of times they will still bury that victim, just out of, that emotion, that love that was there. They will conceal them, as opposed to like a stranger homicide of, like, say, a sex worker. They'll just toss in a ditch. So they will bury them. But if there is a lot of animosity and hatred there and vengeance surrounding financial incentives and everything, I mean, that can start to change that and how that body will be concealed. So it'll be tough, and it'll be interesting to see which direction authorities take this case and whether they think she's still alive or deceased.
Shout out to Phantom 6000. Phantom 6000's got some serious LA connections, and in the MMA world, maybe you can get Bruce Buffer to do the open for my show, Phantom 6000. I'm working on that. We are live. Hello from LA. Great show today. This is a really troubling case. There's a lot more here than what's on the surface. You just heard Doug McGregor say that real quick. STS Nation, you're lucky I'm not in charge. I would arrest just based on the eyes. Tell me what you think of these eyes. And that's me. That's not Rob D'Amico's style, but that's why I'm not an investigator, and he is. So, Rob, back to you on this. So, again, they've got video of him outside the apartment, spray painting the apartment, and then Jim talked about this briefly. They have security video of him, 36 years old, purchasing the exact same brand of paint and duct tape hours earlier at another store. How important is that linkage for this investigation? Oh, you're muted, Rob, I think.
It's absolutely important. It is, again, it's the time frame that they're going to go through, to set this all up. But some of the things, they're just now, again, we talk about the possibility of finding a body. So your case is going to have to be that much stronger without one. So every ounce of evidence to put this guy, when you're sitting there, if you're thinking about a jury looking at this, what would convince you? And when it's, what is it, crayon, the paint, spray paint, whatever it was, and they're gonna go in on it, and they're gonna be like, hey, he's buying it. Here's the video of him, this person using it. Every touch that they can get together, especially with no body, they're gonna need. You gotta convince that juror who's sitting there looking at this without the true evidence that most people want to see. And unfortunately, shows like CSI and everything else has skewed how the jury looks at evidence. And you talk to the prosecutors and like, yeah, they think we're going to get everything and it's going to be this cool video of all the evidence. And when you don't have it, some of the jurors are disappointed and think, oh, you don't have the case. This one, it's pretty strong, except for the body. But one thing that I kind of remembered, though, he has her phone and his phone. And again, we go back to that commercial ID data, and you're now also subpoena toll records of the cell companies over there. So if his phone is pinging off a tower the same as hers at the same time after she disappeared, I think those things are going to start leading it to some of where they're going to start looking for certain things. Did he get rid of the cell phone when he got rid of the body? Again, if those cell phones separate at one point, what caused that? And you're going to start looking at it harder. And people think when you shut off a cell phone that it shut off. It's not. It's funny, a partner, and I think she's watching it now, right? Former NSA folk that I work with, helping track hostages overseas and just phenomenal at her job, just kind of reminded me through some travel that when you thought the cell phone was totally off, it's not, because when you turn it on and all of a sudden it wasn't on for a day or so, and all of a sudden you start getting notifications about joining cell services that you flew over when the phone was off. That phone's not off. So you have to look at it like, he left with the body and her phone. And when he sent the text, did he turn it off? Did it ever touch a tower again? Did it ever try to communicate? And all these other things. And then all of a sudden, did he keep that phone with him the whole time back to Belgrade? Probably not. And you start looking at these deception, the deviations of where they were. Maybe he got rid of the body and the cell phone at the same time. So when did that cell phone stop pairing together, either on the cell towers or some of the commercial ID data that I talked about looking at? And you're really going to start drilling down, because you can't look across all of Europe for the body, but some of these things may be those marks like, hey, we at least need to check this area out because something happened here. Cell phone disappeared, it went off or whatever, showed his cell phone, and he probably had a throw down one, but you can all track them together, especially if he had a throw down his cell phone and hers. That's going to lead to some other things, to mark some areas to pay attention to.
You're not going to get better guests on this case or any other than here at STS with this kind of got an email, by the way, from my best guest last night, Peter Elican, who's an attorney in Boston. We're doing the Karen Reed case, and he said, I can't believe I was actually allowed to speak. He liked to talk, and we let him. Traditional media, so those 8-second sound bites, he was going on and giving us amazing information. This is not her real name, but Olive Green is in the house. She's the one from Jersey, the other Jersey in Europe that I need to get to. So Olive, we are going to visit soon. There was a question right before that, Jim Fuda. How complicated do things get? Typically, when whether it's the sheriff's office, the FBI, or any other investigators, they'll go and they'll lean on the family. Knezevich's family, I believe, is in Serbia. Oh, look at Carmela. This is my beautiful mother, who, by the way, is from Serbia. She is from Serbia. And you know what she told me? I wouldn't put it past a Serbian man to do something. They're tough and they're passionate and they're wild. She's saying, could there be a story behind the story? There always is a story behind the story. But Jim, if you want to answer Carm's question, and then in addition, how does it complicate things that the family is likely, 8,000 miles away in Serbia? You're muted. It's a frequent podcasting problem.
Did any of the family, did he share any of this with any family members or close friends? Did anybody help him, give him ideas to set this up? And if they're interviewed, they could be, if they realize, like say the feds look at them and interview them and think that they might somehow be involved, you could be an accomplice, and other people don't really have any skin in the game. If you, like I mentioned on one of the last podcasts, is that if I want to kill my wife because you've been going out on her, I want to get Rob and Doug to help me. They don't have any skin in the game. Their emotions aren't involved in this, and they're not losing any money on it. So I just think that people, some of them will be honest, and you go to Serbia and see the people where he probably planned this because he's been there for a while, and what they're gonna tell him, if anybody will tell him anything.
Ned Smith pointing out that this guy looks like Ricky Martin. That's kind of interesting. I can sort of, not on the left, maybe, definitely not on the right. Some strange observations always on STS. But here's another piece of video from the brother of Anna Knezevich. Carm, if you're still in the chat, which I know you are, you can weigh in on whether this guy did it or not. She's going to give some kind of benign answer. But here we go. Here's another soundbite, and we'll get the reaction.
Tell her that we all love her, we miss her, we support her.
COE. That's all you got? So anyway, the family is obviously heartbroken and devastated. This is actually a big story here in South Florida. That's our local news station, Local 10, ABC. This is where it gets interesting here. Investigators also interview Rob D'Amico, a woman who said that David Knezevich asked her, this gets complicated, asked her to translate a text message sent to her wife's friends after her disappearance. So the wife's friends get this kind of cryptic message. This is the most detailed part of the FBI's 11-page complaint. It involves this unnamed Colombian woman, which is interesting because Anna is Colombian. Now he meets a new woman on a dating app last fall. And the morning after, if you guys can follow this, the morning after Anna disappears, David Knezevich texts this new woman from Colombia asking a favor, saying, would you translate into quote unquote perfect Colombian Spanish a few English sentences for a friend writing a screenplay? The woman said that she didn't speak English and would use a generic online translator. And this is the message. He sent this woman this passage that was translated saying, I met someone wonderful. He has a summer house about 2 hours from Madrid. We are going there now, and I will spend a few days there. There is barely any signal, though. I will call you when I come back. Kisses. So this is purported to be a text message from Anna to her friends. And Rob, now we're finding out that he basically lures a woman in on a dating app. And here's where I think the circumstantial evidence is piling up as high as Mount Everest. If I'm a jury with this limited information, and I'm cynical, but I am really wondering about this guy and questioning his innocence at this point.
Yeah, so I'm one of those people, and I always believe that the police have the burden of proof, and because I can't imagine being an innocent person put in jail for something I didn't do. So if I was sitting on the jury, I really lean on, hey, you have to prove the case. But this is all getting to the point where it's just like you said, it's Mount Everest. But when you look at this unnamed witness that he met, I think I read he met her about the time Anna went over to Europe, met her on a dating app, and then asked this favor of her. And the fact that the text that her friends got, Anna's friends got, is exactly verbatim from what she, translated for him. Again, it's like, what are the chances of that happening? And it's this the moment after. But I also bet they're using her they probably asked to see all the texts, depending on how they communicated. Was it WhatsApp? Was it Signal? Was it Threema, which I use? Or was it Telegram? Whatever app he was using, it's encrypted. So even if I subpoenaed his phone records, I'm not going to get content on some of it. But if she gives me the phone and shows me what those texts were from him, then I get that information. And it may also start laying out his path of where he was. If he was talking to her, I'm in Croatia now, I'm here, I'm this. If he's, I'm renting a boat, I'm going to go fishing. Well, that would be a big indication. So I think the communications with her, if he was, talking to her during this time, and it also meant he had his cell phone with him, even if he turned it off during certain situations that we talked about, it does indicate he had it with him during some of this. Then you can start pointing to certain things. But I think she probably has more information that she's given the FBI that they've talked to, because they only got enough. They only put enough information out to get the arrest warrant. They wanted the arrest warrant. They gave enough. But as Douglas said, there's a ton of other stuff out there that they did not want to put in the arrest warrant because they don't want the defense attorney and and David to know that they have, so that they can start grounding it. I think this is probably one of the more key witnesses because, again, she can go back and forth with what she's messaging.
Go ahead.
So I'm sorry, we putting up. We already discussed this. I know you're hanging with the kiddos too, multitasking there. Get your membership, Deja Vu. I have no idea what Black Widow is talking about, but I think she's talking about getting a membership. Is that for us, Black Widow? I don't know, but thank you. Regardless, much appreciated. Since I'm a little slow. What can I tell you? She speaks Gaelic, I think, so I don't follow completely. But I want to divert for 1 second, just because we have Jim Fuda here. People are asking about this. Is the Mika Miller case. Someone's asking about it, and very sensitive case. But Jim, I don't know if you know it, but this is a case out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. A pastor in South Carolina announces during a sermon that his wife unalived herself, and it was this crazy uproar. We've decided to really stay away from this because it's just so sad and horrible and tragic. But since we have Jim here, I just want, for cautionary tale purposes, for him to respond to this. So during his sermon, he matter-of-factly mentions that his wife had just unalived herself. It was at the end of the sermon. And then they released 911, a 911 call. And it is so incredibly depressing, Jim Fuda. This young woman named Mika Miller, who I think is just 30 years old, was in this horrible relationship. She goes to a pawn shop. She's seen on video, smiling. She buys a firearm with ammunition. And then she calls 911 and says, and I'm paraphrasing here, she says, "I want my family to be able to find me." And the operator says, "Why?" And she says, "Because I'm about to unalive myself." And sure enough, they find her, I think, in the water at a national park in North Carolina. The reason I bring it up is a couple of people have asked about it. When you're feeling that desperate, and I think a lot of us have been in very bad situations, but when you're feeling that desperate that you can do this, what is your advice as a hostage negotiator? This isn't a criminal. This is a person that was just, at the end of her proverbial rope. What is your advice to everyone?
Well, I would say reach out to somebody that's willing to listen. I mean, there's a theory that I came up with a while back called trigger point, and that's that moment in time when a person is both mentally and physically capable of killing themselves. In other words, I have that desire to die, but to take the physical action and pick the gun to your head or jump off a bridge or run your car into an embankment is a short period of time. And usually you can talk people as a negotiator. That's what we would hope for, is to keep them talking about things about the future. But it sounds like this poor lady was beyond that, and her mind was made up. And we've had some that I've dealt with over the years when I was with the sheriff's office that you could tell that their mind was pretty much made up, and they did kill themselves by talking to the negotiator.
Such a tragic story. Our hearts go out to her family. And Lorna McKenzie says it. She was in a very abusive relationship, and everyone believes that he is the driving force. As tough as it sounds, my dad, may he rest in peace, was a man who believed in everyone has free choice, and she had the choice. She didn't, make the right one, and I have no doubt that she was, no doubt that he had a big role in creating this misery that drove her to that. So shame on him, and a horrific story. People thought he did it. He is apparently completely innocent, at least of the physical crime, but certainly not of the mental crime. So moving back to this story, Doug McGregor, a few more minutes and then we'll start to wrap up. But that morning, after getting this weird text message, the friends they said it didn't sound like Anna Knezevich. So they immediately did what you should do. They called Spanish police. And one of the friends, her name is Sana Ramo, and she's been interviewed by multiple media outlets, and she talked to the Associated Press today. She said, and I quote here, "I'm in shock. When it's presented in black and white," referring to the FBI report, "it's different than when you only have suspicions and speculations." And she said very openly she no longer thinks that she is alive. Do you tend to agree with her, Doug?
Looking at the publicly available facts, I would tend to agree. The incentive for the husband, if the husband is the suspect here and he's been arrested, or the ex-husband, sorry, the financial incentive, there is no incentive there to keep her alive, because he doesn't want her to take half the estate or whatever whatever it's deemed that she is owed. Looking at the text message, I see a forensic countermeasure that failed. Two of the biggest forensic countermeasures are time and distance, and to me it appears like he was trying to get distance on that one, basically, and time. Basically, I'm leaving the area is the distance, and time. He's trying to get time before she's reported missing. The friends will have to look into it, see if she actually met somebody, and then let's say a week later they figure that was a lie, and then they report her. So it's given him a week's head start. But that didn't work out for him. Now, the one thing I would be interested in looking into is if there was leakage here, and that 2-hour driving distance, whether that meant something or not. That would get him up near the Biscay Bay, the Mediterranean Sea, close enough to the French border. And it also, he's planned enough of this crime that has he planned where her body's going to be after. I don't think he's gone through all this planning to just wing it from the time that he takes her life. I think he's planned the whole thing out. So is that 2-hour time frame, is that giving us some kind of leakage as to where this body might be in a 2-hour driving distance from Madrid? And that's one lead that I would be looking into.
I'm getting back to Rob on another important piece, but what Doug just said is really interesting. Jim, this seems very thought out at the very least, not effective, but well thought out. Do you think that it was thought out well enough that he had a plan for what to do with her once he did what he did to her?
Is that for me?
Yes, sir.
Well, what Doug said, I didn't realize there had been 46 or 4,800 miles put on the car, so I'm going to have to agree with that. And I believe that she's dead. I think she seemed to be, at all appearances, a good girl. Was ready to go meet another friend to go to Barcelona that morning. He put the cover up text to the other woman, and the only way that I think that her body is going to be found is either going to be a fluke. Someone's going to see it in a suitcase. Someone's going to see a hiker's going to see it, something like that, or the suspect's going to be enough pressure put on him, and he's going to confess.
By the way, someone mentioned, and I had no idea about this, quite honestly, that Surviving the Survivor, the book, is going to be available on Kindle May 15th. They don't tell me anything, so that's news to me, but it's going to be on Audible as soon as the book is released, and all other audio platforms, with Carm and yours truly reading the book. So Rob D'Amico, this guy, Knezevich, has an attorney named Ken Padowitz, and he was talking a lot to the media. He has not returned any calls, not commented since the arrest of his client. Agents, your former colleagues at the bureau, Rob, they say that David Knezevich rented a Peugeot in Belgrade, which is the capital of Serbia, that he did it 4 days prior to the disappearance. Several days later, a Spanish driver reports his license plate stolen. And the night that Anna disappears, that same stolen plate number is recorded on a camera. Hours after the disappearance, a Peugeot with stolen plates also went through a suburban Madrid toll booth. The driver could not be seen because he was behind tinted windows. Rob, how good is this evidence? It seems to me, and I'm a layperson, like they've got this guy, but individually, none of these are enough. But in their totality, are they?
I absolutely think so. I kept, like, when I started reading the articles, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And then you come to another one, and then you're like, oh, geez, that that on top of the Peugeot, and he returned it with the tint on there and the stolen plates. And who knows if the Peugeot has a self-tracking GPS locator. I think I talked about on the last show, some of the Russian spies we've captured have things that they put in the car to delete the GPS tracking because they don't want us to be able to know where they went. So did this car even have that the police can then forensically look at and see the location of the car? But every time I kept reading, and I'm like, oh, the paint. The guy looked like him with the helmet and the paint, and then they have the video of him buying the exact same paint, and it just keeps adding up. So when you talk again, it's a mountain, like Everest, of again evidence that without the body, you just have to keep piling it on. Hopefully, maybe like they said, they come across it based on, again, the leakage that Douglas talked about. Why did it at this 2-hour mark? He definitely planned this absolutely to a T. If he planned all the way up there, he didn't stop planning at bringing her body out with the suitcase. He planned where he was going to dispose of this body. And
Rob,
was
do you
it
have any guess? I'm sorry. Do you have any wild guesses as where she could be? I mean, there's water there. Could have driven to water. What do you have any guess?
Water's dangerous. People think you can weigh down a body, and when it actually goes down, the amount of gases that go into that body, unless you do certain things to it, if you decompose it, I would think probably water. But I'd also really want to look at his Google history, because I think that's going to give away what he did with her, because he searched it. He definitely searched how to do something with the body to get rid of it. And if you can get his phone, might not have the same phone or whatever, but if you can look at his Google history, I guarantee it's in there. Yeah.
And I mean, Rob, to that point, they've got it. I mean, they've seized his they have to have seized his computer, right? I mean, even if he left it back in Serbia, he's arrested in Miami, they've got to have authorities picking all that up.
Absolutely. This was a coordinated when he landed. As soon as he took off, they probably had the Serbian police search, do something. It was all coordinated to be at the same time and not give it away when he was in the air that he was going to arrest him. But probably as soon as they captured him in Miami, there were police waiting in Serbia and everywhere else that he had been over there to do search warrants or whatever the process is to get any forensics that they could electronically.
Well, these guys obviously bringing the goods as far as information. I don't think this is going to have a good ending. We're going to stay on it. It's why I chose to do it today. We've been airing the Karen Reed trial on this channel, just a wild case. And then Chad Daybell on our Best Trials channel, which we're going to continue to do. The COE couldn't pull up. There's a piece of video, I think Carm is still here, that my friend Jared Ross sent me. I have no other way to do this than the old style. you're not going to be able to see it. That's Jared on Twitter. He sent me this video. I'm going to play it, and hopefully you can hear this. This has nothing to do with what we were talking about.
We still have more sound.
More sound of what?
Of this story.
Oh, well, why don't you tell me? Where is it?
It's been there.
Oh, I think we're good, though. So there you go. A husband and wife bickering. Seen it live right here on STS. But I'm going to play this video. My mother is oh, here it is. Look at this. The COE is unbelievable. Let's watch this. My mother is a Holocaust survivor. Jared sent me this today.
I saw on Instagram a story where someone asked Google about the Holocaust. And I thought, there's no way this is real. I mean, Google is a nationally recognized search engine. They've got to know what the Holocaust is. So I figured I'd try it at home. Hey, Google, what time is it?
It's 9:08 a.m.
So I did that just to show you that my Google is working. Let's try this also. Hey, Google, what was the score of the Yankee game last night?
Yesterday, the Yankees played the Astros. The final score was 10-3 Yankees.
So you see, it's working just fine. Hey, Google, how many Jews were killed in the Holocaust?
I don't understand.
Hey, Google, who did Hitler try to eliminate in the Holocaust?
I don't understand.
Hey, Google, what is the Holocaust?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Hey, Google, what is the Nakba?
According to Wikipedia, the Nakba was the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in Mandatory Palestine during the 1948 Palestine War through their violent displacement and dispossession of land, property, and belongings, along with the destruction of their society, culture, identity, political rights, and national aspirations.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Google, make this right.
To get Carm's take on that, Jim Fuda, you're shaking your head. Curious what you think of that. I mean, this is insane. It's the largest tech company in the world, or at least among them.
Well, just the first impression is that it's eliminating history.
Yeah. So it's literally erasing history. It gives me the chills, actually, in a way that I want to go to Google and kick the CEO right in the groin. It is maddening. Rob D'Amico, you're good Italian man from Jersey. The Italians and the Jews historically buddies. My mother's a survivor. It just really, I can't believe that it is true that Google has literally no answer for what is the Holocaust. They have an answer about the Palestinian problem back in 1948. But Rob, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that's the biggest thing. Like if they're just trying to eliminate everything along those lines, they want to have like you talked about, the elimination of the Palestinians, but the fact that they have that and they don't have the Holocaust, it gets worse every day on what's going on with this and how they're trying to hide this, and it's disgusting. And I don't know what to say. It's one of those things. As you talk about, I grew up in New Jersey where I thought there was only Roman Catholics and Jews. I didn't even know about Southern Baptists or anything. And and I just never knew how you could hate someone based on their religion. But it's definitely out there.
What I would like everyone to do, I want to get Doug's reaction too, as a Canadian in a civilized country there with much less crime, but except for Drake and his rap battles. But I would love everyone to use their social media. I've retweeted. Yes, this is true. Sergey Brin is the co-founder of Google. He's a Russian Jew, 100%. My Google Home gave a correct answer just now. Interesting. Why are some giving correct answers and why are some not? But I just urge everyone, you can go on, follow me on Twitter at Podcast SES and retweet what I'm tweeting. But let's make sure Google knows about this. It shouldn't be happening to some and others. And by the way, special thanks to the 7 different TV news outlets so far who've interviewed Carm. Listen, I wrote this book about my mom because it was, for me, just personally important. I had bits and pieces of the story, and I didn't really know her story. The book is so much more, by the way, than just her Holocaust story. But now that I see what's going on, it is more important. Who is it that used to say now more than ever? I don't know. I think it was NBC about their political coverage. But now more than ever, this is very important. And my mom said this in an interview on, of all places, EWTN, which is the largest Catholic network. She said today they're coming for the Jews, but tomorrow they're going to come for the Muslims. They're going to come for African Americans. They're going to come for Italians. So everyone's got to stay aware of this. Doug McGregor, sorry it took me so long to get to you. Ned Smith, it was definitely not ABC Sports. That is, I'm totally blanking. Rob knows what I'm talking about. And Jim does. What's the famous ABC Sports? It'll come to me. I'm just completely blank. But Doug, what do you think of this? That Google, at least with Jared Ross's device, unable to answer questions about certain things related to the Holocaust? Pretty much everything.
Honestly, I don't think it's a tough question or tough answer. I think on the face of it, it looks like, they're restricting information, historical information. I would like to know, I personally would like to know if there is a reason, what that reasoning is, whether it's the wording, whether it's objections to the term Holocaust, as Wikipedia has a section in there that some people don't like the term Holocaust because of theological meaning or whatever. But I've always referred to it as that. And in any sense, I think it should be corrected.
The COE chiming in here saying, I think different devices are responding differently. That shouldn't be happening, though. It should be uniform. I mean, what if you're in Tallahassee where Jared is? You can't get, what are they doing? Like you're the geo profiler, Doug. You think that they can lose this information in certain geographic locations, but not others? I think if you're in New York City, you can hear the answer, but if you're in Tallahassee, you can't.
No matter where you are, your Google searches are focused on where you are, right? I mean, it all over the world. If I want to go to a gas station, it's not going to give me a gas station in California. It's going to give me a gas station in Ottawa. So everywhere you go, your Google searches are catered to your specific region, location. And yeah, I don't know whether Google restricts historical information based on location. I can't answer that. I have no idea.
It is good to see, though, people saying, hey, Google's answering correctly. So maybe it's an automated type of, again, you never know how data manipulation or whatever and profile, like if I search Google for something, it comes up totally different, as Douglas said, based on my location, my prior search history, who knows. The fact that it didn't do anything shows some troubling, but a bunch of people saying, hey, it is answering correctly now. So maybe it's not a Google thing. Maybe it's an automated thing that they have to really look into.
Yeah, Google, get your act together is the bottom line. Analytical Blarney, AB, best community, best guest, best chat of all time. Jim McKay, ABC Sports. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. That is ABC Sports.
Oh, yeah, the ski jumper crashing.
ABC Wide World of Sports.
Yeah.
The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. But appreciate these guests, especially today, Doug McGregor, for coming on last second, but still bringing all the knowledge. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. with the Karen Reed trial. Ask for audio reviews and sub. If you're listening to us on audio platforms, Spotify and all the rest, please leave us audio reviews. It helps us immensely. Be much appreciated. Once you get the book, leave 5-star. You get homework here at STS. 5-star reviews on Amazon. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Karen Reed, 5 p.m. Karen Reed Show. Friday, Phil and Scott are breaking down this very case, America's most respected detective. Until then, love you, America. Love you, Ottawa, Canada. I love Canada. Civilized place. Watch me get pickpocketed or robbed when I'm in Toronto. Jim Fuda, Seattle. Seattle's got some cleaning up to do. Rob D'Amico, Florida. You love it or hate it. That's all I can say about Florida. Hang on one second, guys. I'll see you in a second.